Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Prepper Post News, courtesy of Freedom Prepper. I am Perrin Lovett, and today is Monday, February 8th, 2021. Got some great things to talk about today. A little bit of a different show with a different order. But first, hello to everybody at Freedom Prepper, freedompreppercommunity.com, YouTube, and everybody listening to the podcast. I'm going to quickly go through some newsworthy stories of the day, and then come back to our special feature because it's a little bit different today. And this is a show you really need to listen to or watch because it's going to be different than it's not the normal kind that I kind of script out. It is and it isn't. I'm going to be talking a lot more. I'm going to be reading from something. But first of all, let's talk about some stories that we can't talk about. We are not allowed to discuss these stories. So production crew, just be very careful. I'm not going to really say anything. Let's not put up any pictures or links, and let's watch the titling of the video so we don't run up against any censorship. I can't talk to you about this here on YouTube or pretty much anywhere outside of Freedom Prepper, but I've got two links. If you will go to freedomprepper.com, I've got two alternative links to the same video made by a man who helps America sleep better. And he's been under fire lately, but he found the time and the resources to put together a 2-hour documentary. It's a giant interview with numerous experts, and there's a lot of charts and numbers and affidavits and sworn testimony, all kind of things that you might think of as evidence. And the more you look at it, it looks a lot like proof, 100%, which is, I think, what he titles it. I don't know what it's about, but I believe it's something we've discussed before, something we caught immediately after, I don't know, something happened, and then there was some kind of beast from Greek mythology that popped up with a lot of exhibits, and here we had the same stuff. He is right about so many things, and I'm so proud of the man for doing this when he no longer has to, and unfortunately, in the tactical sense at least, when it no longer matters. Because the overall point is, while this episode I can't talk about certainly helped open all the eyes that can be opened at this point, no one in power did anything. So more fun for us moving forward. I can't talk to you about this one either, but you know, this is a litigious country. We've got state and federal courts, just a bazillion laws, and people are always filing lawsuits. Sometimes, you know, a team of people will file, say, 80 lawsuits all over the place about something I can't talk about. And a lot of those get withdrawn or dismissed procedurally without any discussion of the merits whatsoever. But there's a set of cases that when the select few that have been adjudicated to some extent on the merits, 2/3 of those have been won by the plaintiff team. Something you won't hear about anywhere. I've got a link to LifeSite that has links to the dockets and so forth. No idea what I'm talking about. It doesn't make any difference. We have rules to obey. The President of the United States of America, Joseph R. Biden, does not. He doesn't have to play by the same rules that we do. He just has to take his B12 shot and get propped up and talk to the cameras. He did that the other day. And this goes to something I'm going to be talking about for the feature. This is a Deadline reporting of an interview he did with one of the CIA outlets. Here's a quote. He doesn't want to give Trump intelligence briefings, which historically past presidents are entitled to, not necessarily by law. It is the discretion, of course, of the current president, which in this case is Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. He says, I ran like hell to defeat Trump because I thought he was unfit to be president, Biden said. I've watched what everybody else watched. What happened when what do I say now? that crew invaded the United States Capitol, but I'm not in the Senate now. I'll let the Senate make that decision. The takeaway I got from that, if I was Donald Trump, I wouldn't want any intelligence briefings. I wouldn't care what the Senate did. I would want nothing to do with them ever again. Actually, I want that now, even though I'm not Donald Trump. But Biden said he ran like hell to defeat Trump. I was in 2020, and except for one debate where he said, "Shut up, man," I don't remember him campaigning at all. So make of that what you will. Here's another thing I can't really talk about, even though Time Magazine wrote a story, and I've got a link to an archive copy so they can't change it. It's called "The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign That Saved Something I Can't Talk About." You see, what was a crazy conspiracy theory that would get you kicked off of Facebook or Twitter a week ago is now something they're bragging about because they saved us from ourselves. They just read it and also pay attention. It's always the usual suspects. Always, always, always. But they're not really the real suspects. Extremists are. After the events of 1/6, may we never forget 1/6. There's a purge going on against extremists and supremacists, meaning people a lot like, I don't know, you. Creepy Joe went to the National Prayer Breakfast, and he condemned extremism. And he said all kinds of things that didn't really belong at a prayer breakfast. Not sure if he referenced the name of Jesus Christ at all or said amen. Maybe he said amen and a woman in the name of Brahma. That's how your Congress this year opened under an invocation to a demon. So, talk to me more about your Constitution and your democracy and all that stuff. Amen and a woman. We had a quote from another usual suspect that said, "We don't need any unity with these bigots. I fear a subtext of this engagement." They don't like talking to anybody that prayer, they don't like the prayer breakfast going on because there's prayer involved. He fears that the subtext of the engagement is, can't we all get along? What Rodney King wanted, what everybody really wants. Can't we all get along? He's saying, no, we have to, get rid of these extremists. And no, we most certainly can't. Read that at the AP. Also read this story. It's just a quick quote from Lou Rockwell about the entanglement of big corporations and big government in this country. I'll just read you the quote. "Bank of America was going through its records alerting the federal government about people who were in D.C. on January 5th, 6th, and 7th because they might have been involved in the events at the Capitol. They are looking for flights, gun purchases, hotel rentals, and more." I guess we're learning what the quid pro quo was for all that bailout money in 2008. I can't remember the numbers, but Bank of America, scored probably $1 trillion plus in either Fed funny money or government guaranteed loans, all backed up by force. None of it exists, but you're on the hook for it. And they turn around and thank the government by spying on their own customers. So maybe, and it's, pick your, somewhere there's a list of which banks got what in the United States and abroad. We paid tens of trillions to foreign banks. And the same thing is going on right now. You can probably find how much money your bank got, and then I bet you they're spying on you or canceling you. So you might want to go ahead and do a service to yourself and cancel out anyway. Also, if you're in the military, know that you're about to stand down. Every branch in the next 60 days is going to stand down. Unfortunately, it won't be forever, but they want to purge the ranks of white men. White supremacists. Anybody that has, I didn't know they had such a terrible problem. Some joker broke into a Joint Base Andrews Friday, got on board the vice presidential jet. He was unarmed, alone, and not a known extremist. But the military has a problem with extremists. You've probably heard so much about that. Not the Muslims, shooting up army bases, but the heritage Americans who they just don't want anymore. White women and all Christians and heterosexuals will be next. Take a look at that one. That story is all over the place. I've got a link to some amalgamated comments about it. That's actually a very good thing for us, because at this point, you don't need to be serving in the imperial military, because that has nothing to do with us anymore. Not that it has in many decades. And also, let them change it up. Let's let the lines be drawn. I'll put the last word before the feature today, and that is children. We've got a lot of problems right now, and everybody's racing around. Oh, what's going on? Who did this? Who did that? And 9 out of 10 times, if you want the culprit, you look in a mirror. Somebody wrote Ann Barnhart about, being in their 50s, facing down retirement with not a penny to their name, no retirement savings, and honestly looking a few years out and seeing Social Security and Medicare as a total bust. Pyramid scheme flattened out. What do we do? She said, well, historically what people did to save for retirement was have children. You have 6, 8, 10 kids. That's enough so that when you get old, they can take care of you. And because of our, hedonistic lifestyles, our materialism, and our, evil stupidity, we have no one but to blame. I guess what you really do is enjoy your poverty. There are ways out, but young people, get married, have kids, and stop taking advice from people who absolutely hate you, like the media. Here's our special presentation. This is a little short course. I've got to keep it to about 10 minutes on how to spot media lies. I've talked about this, many times before. In any modern civilized country, your free media is anything but free, and you can see that because no matter what the source is, they all put out the same story, and it's the same thing over and over. And if you have a different take on it, it doesn't matter if you have evidence to back it up or not, they shut you down. And this story centers on Representative Marjorie Greene of Georgia's 13th or 14th district, the northwest corner of Georgia, Dalton and Rome, carpet country, beautiful country. Newly elected, extremely popular, pro-gun. She's perhaps there's always one person in Congress that kind of sort of represents us, and it's her right now, and they absolutely hate her. She's all over the news. They just stripped her of I think it was both of her committee appointments, and she's just bad. She's a bad person, and they want to get rid of her, and they slander her every chance they get. So what I did, I found the perfect story, and it's called Greene references gun incident at her Georgia high school. It's by Ty Tagami of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And the AJC used to be a real newspaper, and I have no idea. Mr. Tagami apparently writes about education and political matters. This is not commentary on him. He wrote up a pretty good piece, I must say. But I archived this copy because I wanted to. I didn't want anybody to change anything. They say all kinds of things about Miss Greene, and let's just take a look. She's beleaguered. She's beleaguered only because they keep attacking her. Extraordinarily popular in her own district, and she had to defend herself before they yanked her out of her appointments. In her defense last Thursday on the floor of the House, she referenced a 1990 hostage situation at a Forsyth County high school where she went to school. And she was using that to explain her position on gun rights. In her speech, Greene, who has promoted lies about everything from space lasers controlled by Jews to mass school shootings and 9/11, seemed to reference a 2019 incident when she accosted gun control activist David Hogg on a street near the U.S. Capitol. There's a video of that. Accosting him means he's just released a book calling for the Second Amendment to be banned, all guns to be confiscated, take away your rights. And she just was walking along asking him why, and he wouldn't respond. If Antifa did that, with a hammer or a bike lock, that would be okay. Her asking a question on the street is wrong. And by the way, this talks about Hogg, who was 19 at the time, survived the 2018 mass shooting at the Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. That was a terrible event. Terrible event. He wrote a book about it, or there was one written for him. I read it. It was terrible. It was. I was proud that he was involved in writing a book at such a young age, but all it was here's our story. Now let's ban guns. Brady gun control on steroids. Same old story they've been singing for years. There's a better book called "Why Willow Died," written by a father of a girl who was killed, and the reason that shooting took place is the criminal who did it, who is in some phase of being tried right now, was a known criminal, and there were U.S. DOJ DOE policies in place to shield criminals like him from being prosecuted or from even alerting authorities that he was a problem. And that helped produce the shooting. And now they want to take your guns away. They didn't do anything about him. And you can find that outside of Why Willow Died. Read that book. But you can find out all about his problems and what problems he created. And nothing was done about it. And then he shot up the school and killed Willow. And I think, 16 other people. David Hogg was not at school at the time of the shooting. He was at home. And he heard about it on the radio or the TV, so he jumped on his bicycle and he rode as hard and fast as he could to get there so that he could say that he was a survivor. I guess by that metric, I too am a survivor, even though I was a good 500 plus miles away when it happened. I'm glad I survived. I don't see it in here yet, but there's people have said that he's one of those crisis actors. I'm just quoting what other people have said. I've never said that. I don't necessarily agree with it. He is an actor, or he was. He's been in Hollywood productions, lived in Hollywood. He has a page at the International Movie Database. I better move this along. Okay, but in her speech, Green, who has promoted lies about Jews with laser cannons and some other stuff, there's a link. So here's what we're going to do. They keep saying this. They want to say she's an anti-Semite. She's a racist. She's a crazy person. Here's a link that presumably will tell us why. So let's click on that. Aha! Why, it goes to another recent AJC story. To her Northeast Georgia constituents, or Northern Georgia constituents, Green is either an embarrassment or a conservative champion. By the margin she was elected, I'd say she was seen as a champion. Let's see if we can find anything about these chosen people with their Star Trek weapons. And the answer, of course, is no. There's nothing in there except she's into QAnon. And by the way, QAnon has never said anything about lasers setting forest fires, lasers doing this, never blamed Israel, never blamed any Jews for anything. Let's see here. Here we go. Green's past support for the convoluted and baseless QAnon conspiracy theories, her promotion of lies about school shootings, terrorist attacks, and speculation that a deadly California wildfire was caused by wealthy Jewish bankers and others wielding space lasers, shifted from being just the Jews to wealthy Jewish bankers and others with space lasers. Why? There's another link. Let's click on that. Maybe the proof is here. It's not. I've looked at these before. Media Matters. Another new Media Matters story. Let's see here. Marjorie Green penned conspiracy theory that a laser beam from space started the deadly wildfire. And let's see. I've read this before. They can't seem to find a copy of it now. Apparently she deleted it. Where was the thing I was looking for? At some point on Facebook, she may have speculated. She may have quoted a speculation about something inexplicable. But again, I'm failing to find any reference to Jews. Wait a minute. Here it is. Green added, if they are beaming the sun's energy back to Earth, I'm sure they wouldn't ever miss a transmitter receiving station, right? Talking about solar-powered energy from space being used for electrical generation. I mean, mistakes are never made when anything new is invented. What would it look like anyway? A laser beam or light beam coming down to Earth, I guess. Could it cause a fire? I don't know. I hope not. That wouldn't look so good for PG&E, a giant corporation that generates electricity on the West Coast. Rothschild Inc., the richest family in the world. Solar under Jerry Brown. Okay, so she's just speculating that if the wildfires were started by some kind of new green energy technology on accident or on purpose, how would we know? She's not saying that it happened. Other people have speculated about this without any proof. There's no proof of this. I don't think things like that exist. The airborne laser was our 747 mounted weapon for shooting down ICBMs. Required an entire 747 full of batteries to generate a laser that could only penetrate about 200 miles. Something coming down from space. We don't have that technology right now. PG&E is a corporation. I mean, they run all kind of conventional power plants. I mean, might they want an accident like that to stifle competition? Maybe. Solarin, a solar energy company that I think went under with your tax dollars. Jerry Brown, the governor of California. No Jews yet. Rothschilds, they are Jewish. Rothschild Inc. Why even mention them here? Well, because they invest in everything, to include most Western central banks. These people literally own the banks that control the banks to control the money supply. But she doesn't finger them as that. She's just talking about an investment sense. So in other words, through 3 links, and here's some kind of picture quote that doesn't say anything. They're just lying. They're just lying. They're just throwing out the worst sounding thing they can think of that doesn't make any sense, that she disavows. She's just speculating, and by the speculation isn't mean. It's not anti-Semitic. If you didn't know who the Rothschilds were, you'd be able to draw no conclusions whatsoever. Go to DuckDuck or a Start Page and look up Meyer Rothschild and look up some of his quotes and some of the things that he and his sons set in motion, like your Federal Reserve. So she didn't say anything wrong, but then one fake news agency hopped on the back of another and just started spinning the words, and then another reporter at that agency started spinning it again, and people read this and they think, well, a mainstream publication writes this, it must be true. I won't click on all these links. I won't think about this. I'll just decide that Margie Green is bad, and I'm glad that she's off these committees. And anything that she supports, I should probably think twice about. Like this Second Amendment thing. I mean, there are pictures of her with assault rifles, and those are bad because, like David Hogg told us, that's what killed all those people at the high school. And these people don't know about the law that shielded the gunman. They don't, if you look at any of these cases, there's always something, some anomaly, almost always, not always, something off that never gets reported. And what does get reported is just dead wrong. So learn. This wasn't the best example. I hope it helped. You got to read through this stuff. You got to learn to pick out what's true and what's not. It helps if you look at 100 of these a day for years, and then you don't even have to read it. You can just sense what's real and what isn't. What's real? Okay, she's from Georgia, and she's in Congress, and her name is Margie Green. And that's about it. The rest of it is just complete hogwash. Cleverly spun to divert attention and to make her out to be a monster that she is not. And they do this with everything that doesn't concern their narrow interest and their side. And they do the same thing on their side. It's just puff pieces. Everything looks great, such as the archive article from Time, where they come back and say all this conspiracy stuff, that Q and Margie Green believed in. Well, there was a little truth to that because we had to act to help. So we did it, but it was a good thing, not a bad thing. Just very slow, steady inversion that never stops. And when will it stop? My My guess would be probably the end of this decade. How? We're about to find out. So I hope this helped a little bit. Take a look at these links, study through, and draw your own conclusions. Leave me some comments, and tomorrow we'll be back. There's a lot more. There's so many stories I had to skip over so I could get into this one. And we'll see you tomorrow, folks. Have a beautiful Monday.